I don't know what just happened there, but that music is gone, man.
What did
Let's
you
try
do?
this again. Hold on. Let's see. Let's see. Jason, don't touch anything. Here we go. And
I'm at-
3, 2, 1. That is amazing to me.
What
I don't
what have
know.
I got
Welcome to
myself into here?
Vagabond. That's what we get every time for saying that we need to, edit the song or whatever. And now the time that we try it, it's not going to work. We want to go 1 for 3.
Sure,
let's
go
do
for
it.
it.
Let's do it. Let's do
Do
it. Jason, just kick it
Yep.
off, man.
All right. Well, hey, Facebook told me we're live, so good. Good for us. Hi there. It's a Saturday. We're
Make it
just gonna
short,
hang
Jason.
out, have a little fun. Yeah. Welcome to Vagabond Nerds, powered by Titan Comics. You know them. You know their stuff. They got crap. Go buy it. We're joined today, or the role of Sean will be played by our favorite side squish, Genesis from ANX Gamecast. How you doing, Genesis?
Good. Vagabond Nerds, now bigger and blacker than ever.
the bigger, blacker, longer box edition. For those of you who are playing at home. Oh my goodness. Before we start, gentlemen, how have your 2 weeks been? I can literally say that because Genesis was on the last one too.
Yeah.
Super busy. Just busy. Getting ready for vacation. So
man, and you aren't even going like a little tiny vacation. Like you're making up for lost time vacation.
yeah. So 7 days in Hawaii will do it.
That'll
Nice.
I'll definitely take it to places where you want to be.
Yeah.
It's Jason. How have you been the past 2 weeks? You actually weren't even here the last time.
I wasn't here yet. So how's it been last month? Yeah, actually pretty good. Busy though. Troopy Rules should be launching on TikTok this next week.
Hey, we're not here to broadcast your side squish
Plugs.
Yeah, we're not doing your plugs today. You have literally 15 other shows to do that on.
This is my 16th, and so I plug.
I tell you what, when your vocals can match your mouth, we'll let you plug. How's that?
All right, fair enough.
No, man, go ahead. Troopy Rules.
No, that's it. Yeah. No, once it's live, I'll share it to the Facebook site.
To the interwebs.
Yeah, to the interwebs. Yeah, first episode should launch this week. I just finally got everything recorded and drawn. We had some logistics to figure out so we could do it on the regular. So
now it's in full production, right?
It's not animated. It's more like just because that would take even longer. It's just different screens, but there is audio and it moves between the screens. So each frame will be the full screen.
Cool, man. All right, awesome, dude. Well, we're glad to have you back finally, like 8 years later. Yeah, it's been nice. I mean, I'll tell you right now though, your pseudo replacement here, Genesis, has been much cuter than you, and Sean's not here because Sean's gonna take a little getaway, and whatever. I don't care. But I say that because I who knows if I'll be able to join in June with my schedule as well. I'm beginning to look a lot like Christmas, and I got a lot of stuff coming up. But we have a lot of show and not a lot of time this time. So let's kick it off. What do we want to start with, gentlemen? It's a dealer's choice. I'm going to give the dealership to Genesis. What would you like to start with? Hey, Dan.
What's short? Strange New Worlds?
Yeah.
New show?
Strange New Worlds. Yeah, we can start there.
Yeah, we can blow through that pretty quick.
All right. And go.
So, for anyone who doesn't know, Strange New Worlds is actually a spinoff of the original series and Discovery. So, just a little warning out there for anyone who has not seen either one. Some of the stuff may or may not make sense to you. I like that they didn't go into full detail, fully explaining everything that happened. For example, Dragon Ball Super, when it came back out, it's like the whole first season was just them explaining this is what a Super Saiyan is. It's like, we know there was 400 episodes of Dragon Ball Z, so don't do that. So they didn't, but if you haven't seen it, could be an issue. But I think this is giving some of the fans what they wanted, which is a more traditional version of Star Trek, which is mission based. We're going, here's a new race, a new alien race. There's a specific mission just for that one episode, and then we fly off somewhere else, and then the next episode, and things don't really overlap. I enjoyed that version of Star Trek, but don't get me wrong, I also enjoy Discovery, which is totally different from that as well. So it's good so far. It's much better than Picard. This is my main take on it.
Those are some strong words for sure.
Picard's trash.
Yes. Jason, what did you think about it?
So yeah, I basically completely agree with what Genesis said. It is like, if you're a fan of the original show, there's a lot of throwbacks to it. If you've seen, I'd say, the first couple of seasons of Discovery, then it'll make sense. Like, they don't, to his point, they don't spend a lot of time trying to play catch up. There's just a few references here and there. I did like that the first episode is dealing with an aspect of the show is dealing with what happened to Pike at, I can't remember if it's I think it's season 3 of Discovery, or season 2, when he was in it, and they did that whole thing. I like that they addressed it, but it was a point, but like, boom, we're done. Let's move forward. Right? It's going to be more of an ensemble cast. That's so to Genesis' point. It's not just that it's going to be mission of the week kind of thing, which Discovery, and all the new Trek has been more, one narrative driven. This is going to be more, more episodic. It's also more of an ensemble cast than Discovery was. Like, Discovery was very, I forget her name. She's the captain now. It was centered around her, and there were other characters, and other characters got time, but it's like she was the one driving the story. This was allowed to be a larger ensemble cast. Pike is definitely sort of the focus of this episode, but you get the feeling that they really do want to spend more time with some of these other characters that they're setting up, and I liked what they were doing. It did feel more like traditional Trek, but it had all the fancy special effects that we got now.
I was pleasantly surprised by this. I got to be honest. When Genesis brought it up, I was like, I don't know if I want to get into a whole new Star Trek or a whole new series. But after seeing the first one, I quickly watched the second one. Pleasantly surprised by it. I think it could have went into some very preachy political stuff, and I felt it kind of started doing it at the end. But the way that they actually wrapped it up, it was really done well, right? Like, they didn't stay to preach on that. What they did was the message that Star Trek from the original series always did, which was that message of hope, that message of everything can be peaceful and everything will eventually get there. And I really did appreciate that, because I think in this day and age, it feels like every other Hollywood product has an agenda, whether you agree with the agenda or not, or if it's even an agenda in your eyes. And sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not. But this actually, it just felt very, again, I have no problems with stories coming to a natural conclusion, because it's written and it's presented in such a way that the narrative is going to reflect correctly in your conclusion. And the first episode did that, right? Like, I love the fact that it did what it was doing without getting into what it's not. And so for me, that was really, I like that. I liked it a lot. And so again, pleasantly surprised, instantly a fan of it. I hope it stays that way. I have not watched Discovery, so I don't know, how that is. But having watched the first season of Picard, yeah, I do feel it was stronger than Picard. Picard, I feel more is like a what is he up to now? What can we do to bring in other characters? Certainly, that was the feeling for season 2, and then season 3. I think it's like, basically, it's the next generation reunion, from what I'm seeing and from what I'm reading. So this was done nicely. I don't know about you guys. Pike to me felt like the current iteration of Kirk in the new timeline, the Kelvin timeline, with whatever his name is, Chris Pine. But that wasn't bad. I will say that this version of Spock, the character, took me just a little bit to get adjusted to, and I don't. It's just me, or does he have an even deeper voice than the Spocks before him? Right. So this is Ethan Peck, and I feel like he's got another lower octave to him than what Nimoy did, and what
Sure.
the
Yeah,
last guy.
but it's also I've seen Discovery, and it's taken me a minute to get adjusted to this Spock.
Yeah,
even though this is happening after season 1 and season 2 of Discovery. He's a little bit different than he was even in Discovery, with his appearance mostly. So I will say to people out there, I mean, yeah, if you're a fan of like traditional old school Star Trek, Strange New Worlds is for you. If you want the nostalgia run, as far as character base, you go to Picard. If you want something new, which I'm more of a fan of, because it seems like every version of Star Trek gets you new, updated, all new weapons and new tech and all that kind of good stuff. You go to Discovery. It has all of that in a more updated, up to date storyline. Because I'm really not a fan, generally speaking, of going backwards with my sci-fi. I don't want to see old tech. That's why I didn't really like Enterprise. It's like you go as far, you're fighting a Borg and you slipstream technology, and then all of a sudden your next show is like 400 years in the past. And it's just like, I'm not really a fan of that. So that's just my take on those shows.
Yeah. I think that's fair. And I agree with you, Jason. I think that with the technology today, this show, it felt more like the current movies as far as their CGI, and none of it was done bad. Like none of it was done bad. No. It all held up, and it was movie quality for the first 2 episodes so far. So there you go.
But yeah, I liked it. Yeah, it was good.
Certainly, definitely a recommended watch, which is something I normally don't say about Star Trek. So, cool. Yeah, that's right, man. Live long and prosper. Don, how are you doing this morning? So yeah, but I think I'm gonna say let's save Doctor Strange 2 for last.
Yeah,
and actually,
that's a long conversation.
Won't be the last thing we talk about. We'll talk about one other thing before we cut. But so the next thing is Moon Knight.
Yeah.
Okay. This is the first Disney Plus show for me that struck out. I did not like how the show ended, so spoilers from here on out. But I think the last episode absolutely undid everything that came prior. And before I get into that, Jason, why don't you kick off kind of where you're feeling on that?
Well, first of all, Don, did you move, Don? That's Bergman, Arkansas. Good for you. I think I agree with Ray. The ending. I think the problem is this: the show is weaker than the sum of its parts. There are elements in this show, a lot of elements of the show that are remarkably strong. Nothing is stronger than the performance of I cannot remember anybody's name today. The actor who played Mark Spector.
Come on, you can do it. You can do it. You can do it.
Anyway, that dude.
You can't do it.
No, I'm done. I'm out.
Look, she's talking to you. Like Jess is trying to point at you, man. Come on, man.
Look.
Oh, Lord.
Keep going, Jason.
No, I mean his performance was really, really strong, right? And there were scenes, the stuff about like within the asylum, I thought could have been really strong, but it's like what you have are all these really good pieces of a puzzle, and then they screw up the puzzle, right? And the ending, I think, it's like, okay, so we've got kaiju now. What's going on?
Yeah, I hate.
I liked. I mean, we all saw it from a mile away, but I did like the Jake Lockley thing. But overall, it's like you had so many good elements and so many good ways you could deal with it and take it, and yet you blew it entirely. Is sort of my feeling. Oscar Isaac, there we are.
There you go.
Thank you, Daniel. I just had one Oscar. I could get the rest of it. Oscar Isaac. Okay, thank you. Oh, now I get what Genesis was doing with the eye. I got.
So I'm never picking Jason to play charades.
No,
First off,
never.
First off, I'm never playing charades. But if I did,
Jason would not be on your team.
Yeah. That would be fair, and that would always be fair. Genesis, what was your thoughts?
So as far as like putting a full analysis on the show, I said this on the last episode. I was just ready for it to be over, so I really didn't care what they did or didn't do with the last episode. I was just really ready for it to be over, and I have to say this because I think it ties into Doctor Strange a little bit on my take. It's not a bad show. It's just such big shoes to fill from the previous shows, Loki's, your Falcon and Winter Soldiers, your What Ifs, and it's not even close to those shows. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. It's just not as good as those things. And so it was just like I'm not exactly sure what's happening here. There were just a lot of things that were missed to me. Where the story took place, some of his, like, for example, Steven, right, the character, I didn't really like him. I never really connected with him. And I guess all of the characters he played, I didn't connect with any of them, probably because there wasn't enough time dedicated to each of the personalities. You had Moon Knight. I didn't connect with Moon Knight as far as anybody in a suit. I didn't connect with Steven or Mark. Definitely didn't connect with whoever it was, whatever his name was at the end credits, because he was not. Yeah. He was never in the show, but he was in the show.
Yeah,
if that makes sense. So I think that even goes further to my point. You had a whole character in the show that they didn't introduce until the end credits, but he was in the show the whole time.
Yeah, since the first episode. Yeah.
So they hinted at it throughout the entirety. Like there was a presence for it, and you didn't have any time. Literally, he had 3 minutes screen time. That character. I didn't like it. I didn't.
So that, I mean, that aspect of it doesn't bother me. I actually think it was a nice thing if you want to do a season 2. But to both y'all's points, it's like it's not a bad show, but it's too disjointed. Like I think there's a better show hidden inside this show. It's not any of the actors' faults. It's just they didn't know what to do with this, I think.
No, the actors, all of the actors involved, actually did a really good job. I think they did a great job with the script they had, whether it was Oscar Isaac, whether it was the one playing Layla, whether it was pseudo Kevin Bacon. They all did a fantastic job actually with the material they got. Like they acted their hearts out. It showed. It's been a long time since I've seen a person of anyone that can play two people at the same time, going back and forth in his own mind. I thought that was fantastic. I don't think you can ask for more for Oscar Isaac. I just think that the script writers, I think that whoever that boardroom of writers were, really let everybody down on that last episode. Because again, to your point, Jason, right? So we have these 3 fights going on. I don't need to see kaiju in the background. Or you know what? I don't even need to see the Egyptian gods going at it. Let one of the human avatars, as they so call them, let them be going at it with one of the gods. Don't let it just be something literally regulated to the background of the main fight. Which I don't know. I guess that universe, the 616 universe, as we're going to talk about here in a little bit, has absolutely become accustomed to seeing giant things in the sky. Because I don't know about you, but if I saw 2 supernatural beings fighting in the city over pyramids, I'd be freaking out a little bit. Everyone seemed relatively calm. It's like, what are the Avengers doing this time? We talked about Force things. I love the fact that we are having as many diverse heroes coming out. I love the fact when you have the you know, one of the children, you know, they're looking for inspiration for it. I don't need for it to be called right out. I just don't. Are you an Egyptian superhero? Why can't she just be a superhero? We already know all the other background. It feels forced. Like why specifically call that out? And I know I'm gonna get a lot of flack for that, but I don't understand that. It's not natural, and it's not something to the story that needed to be portrayed in the way they did it. If she had just said, "Are you a hero?" that alone like is enough to light up someone's eyes. I think in all the time of trying to have I'm going to see how I say that. And all the time that we try to have identifiers, I think the entire purpose is that we don't need to have identifiers. We need to be one with how we are. And I think I wish that certain shows would reflect that. Doesn't make it a bad show. I mean, it did. That's not what pulled me out of the show. It's just one of those little things I'm going to nitpick on. Another thing is I don't like the fact that, again, to what Jason was saying earlier, you had this build up with the asylum that felt like it went nowhere, and how it ended. But you spent for sure 2.5 episodes on it. Why then trash that at the very end? Like, give me that story about the asylum. Better yet, start off the series with the asylum and show me the transition of that, because then we would never know.
Did they trash it? Because I felt like they kind of did some flashbacks to it where Kevin Bacon was in there, and which tells me that they could revisit that going forward.
Maybe, but that's if we get a season 2, right? Like, everything's in flux with that. Like, we don't know
I
if we're
think
really
I
getting
think
season
it hasn't
5.
been announced, but I think, for example, the way they presented the last episode on Twitter was a season finale versus a series finale. So people pointed that out, that change.
That is true.
So, but to go back to what you were saying, you said it's not natural for them to point those kind of things out with the Egyptian superhero.
I said it doesn't feel natural.
Right, but I think that's part of the problem. So for me, from my standpoint, being super brown, it's a situation where I don't think it's natural to have 150 characters in a comic book that are all white. That's not natural.
Yeah, and but do it through the means of the story. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, we already knew she was Egyptian. We already knew they were in Egypt for that fight. Let that speak for itself. And the fact that we should know, if you're watching it the way you should be watching it, I don't necessarily know I need to be told that. And I'm going to bring this up in Doctor Strange 2 as well. And Jason knows where I'm going to go with it, so he's probably going to laugh a little bit when I get there. But again, why force that? I hope an audience is smart enough to pick that up, right? Like, oh my gosh, that's really cool. This person is that. And I think that's what I'm coming from on there.
It was forced, but I don't have an issue with it.
Yeah, that's fair.
So we have the same outlook on it. Like, it was a forced thing, but I have no issue with it at all.
And that's fine. And again, perfectly fine with that.
I have more issue with the bad show.
Yeah, my issues with the writing, but I get it. You don't like Egyptian people. I understand. I don't think you'll get too much.
Don't go there. Hold on, really quick. I think Daniel has a really good point. I would have loved to have seen Ethan Hawke's Moon Knight. Show me that one. Like, again, you have all these people that are the avatars. Show me a little bit about that. That would have been cool.
Well, it's like we were talking offline after the show ended. It's like the whole thing should have been set in the asylum. Like, if you wanted to make the asylum that big of a part of it, like, I think the thing that ruins the entire asylum part, is after they've defeated Ethan Hawke's character, Kevin Bacon part 2, is that Steven ends up back in the asylum, and you're like, well, hold on, the asylum was part of the afterlife thing. Why is that there? Like it doesn't make any sense at all. That's what I think really ruins outside of it being almost entirely useless. It's like, if you'd set that whole thing where Ethan Hawke was always the doctor, and they kept coming back to this asylum, you could have this legitimate question as to whether any of it's real. And then that's your reveal at the end when Ethan Hawke's feet are bleeding, right? Like, when you do that scene, now it becomes, oh, okay, hold on. We're saying there's more going on. It's like you had this great idea that you don't actually invest in. And the problem is, there are ideas that if you do well, you invest in them, then the payoff is there. The payoff was never here for the ideas. I think that's the bigger problem. There's no real payoff for any of these really great ideas that are brilliantly acted out.
I think to sum up the show for me, some of my favorite parts of the show was in the asylum. Like those were my favorite.
Agree.
However, there were plenty of asylum parts that I still did not like. So so take from that what you will. Like even my favorite parts of the show, there were parts that I didn't like.
It felt like it was edited backwards almost. Does that make sense? Like I feel like the editing could have been done much better, and it may swing my opinion completely on it, because it just felt like all the pieces were there.
I think they could have got away with doing the big reveal with the mom and the sister in the beginning of the show, because it wasn't that shocking of a twist of a moment. Like they were building. Like what happened? What happened in that room, right? And then you finally get it, and it's like, oh, that's crappy, but it's like, okay. Like it was just like it just didn't hit like it probably should have.
And again, Ray, I think you said it right. I think you said it right last episode, because I did go back and listen to it. I don't know why.
We don't either.
But I think you said it right where you said this show needed to be shorter. Like it didn't need.
This needed to be a movie.
This needed to be a movie. I think Moon Knight needed to be a movie. I think I agree with that assessment. I think if they'd done this as a movie, it would have worked better.
You know what would have worked great as a series?
Multiverse of Madness?
Doctor Strange 2. Yep. All right. So Genesis went first. Jason opened second. I'm gonna open up this one. As a comic book fan, I love this movie. It is very comic book-y stylized. It's definitely something that as a comic book fan, again, I really enjoyed. And hey, Kim, and again, we're about to go into spoilers for Doctor Strange 2. So 3, 2, 1. Couple of things. One, as the average moviegoer, I would have been lost.
Yeah.
This is the first movies that if you were not plugged into WandaVision on Disney Plus, it would not have made as much difference for you. And that's
it wouldn't have made any sense at all.
They explained a little bit of it, but not enough for you to get the sense of why it was, right? That bothered me, and I'd hate for them to start doing that, to where am I going to have to start watching Disney Plus to understand a full story, in their movies. I'm hoping that they are not going that way, but this one was certainly opened that way for sure. At least I felt that. Genesis?
Maybe a little bit, but I mean, it was very clear. If we stay out of the weeds as comic book fans and you just look at it, I think it was very clear what she was trying to do. You might not have known why she was trying to do it, but it was very clear what she was trying to do. So, it's like, did you need to watch WandaVision? Like, if you want a backstory of what happened to her kids, but I mean, I don't know how many times they had to say that the kids weren't real, that she made them up, she created them, and then but she still wanted them, so she was doing all this to be with her kids again. So I don't really necessarily think that you had to watch WandaVision. It would help, but
really quick, if you've got the ability to alter reality, aren't those kids real? Couldn't you have just ended this movie with started and ended in 5 minutes with Doctor Strange going over there and seeing that beautiful, luscious house and these kids come running out and be like, oh, okay, you're good. Never mind, Wanda. We're going to leave you alone. We don't need you on the lunchbox.
Yeah. It's like, what if she can alter reality, why can't she just alter reality to make them again? But to Genesis' point, I agree. If you hadn't seen it, you could have picked up by context clues what was going on, because like you said, they call it several times, Wanda, your children were never real. You created them by magic. All of that. But
Don't
to
you
your
feel
point,
it's more
Ray, I agree
impactful?
that if you hadn't seen it, you'd be like, what's going on in Westview? What was the thing? Why? Like, I do agree with Ray though. It's like if you hadn't seen it, some people are gonna be like, I don't get why she's evil now. Like, what's like again? I think the problem is even if because we've all seen it, we're like, well, yeah. I mean, they tell you, but if you genuinely don't have any idea what's happening, you're like, what? Like, even I took Christy to it. She was like, what's going on? Like, why is she evil? I thought she was a good guy. Like, that's to the average newbie who hasn't been paying attention. I think it was a distraction. And to Ray's broader point on that, and I think we can talk about that later. I think this may be a weakness moving forward, is that we may Disney may start relying too much on these shows to do like a lot of the heavy work of explaining, like, well, hey, we'll do all the explaining here, but then we'll do our movies and you'll be fine. And it's like, but now I gotta watch this stuff to understand what you're doing here. And even as a fan, I'm like, I don't know that I want to do that. I don't want to have to watch She-Hulk to understand the next Avengers.
But that's what's been happening, like literally the whole time.
I don't think
for 10 plus years now. That's what's been happening with these movies. So I don't know.
You're able to do it with the movies though.
But what's the difference? Watching 3 hours of show or 3 hour movie, like you still had to watch the previous thing for this new thing to kind of make sense in jail. So it's really the same. It's not really anything different than what they've been doing.
To your point, yeah, right. Like especially with Infinity War and Endgame, like 100%.
Right.
But those were made for the fans, right? Let's not get distracted on that. That was absolutely made for that payoff. But most of the movies, right? Like I don't need to watch Guardians of the Galaxies to understand Black Panther. I don't need to watch Black Panther to understand, Captain America and the Winter Soldier. But yeah, there were certainly some movies that were better context laid in with that was layered, like with Civil War. Um, but it's a lot more, right? If the average person's going and they're just looking for that movie as opposed to investing that 6 to 9 hour window for a television series, you're probably not going to get that as much. And again, I'm not saying that you couldn't follow the movie because of it, because you certainly could have. And I will say this: it was better, not better than Spider-Man, but certainly better than Eternals, certainly better than Black Widow.
It was not better than Eternals.
I hated Eternals. Could not.
He hated it.
If it wasn't for Kim, I would have never have finished watching that. And at that point, it became a Mystery Science Theater 3000 for me. I could not stand Eternals. I think to me that is their worst movie. And I'm even saying it's worse than Thor: Dark World 2.
So this is gonna be my hot take for the day. I don't know what I'm seen as. I don't know if I'm seen as a nerd or not. But all I've heard for the past 10 years are nerds complaining that they're creating these movies to bring in the casual fan that doesn't know anything. And now I'm hearing you saying that you're mad because they didn't do enough to bring in the casual fan. It's like, which one is it? Are we just hating on Marvel? Is this Marvel hate? I don't understand.
Yeah, well, no, that's why you see, of course it's Marvel hate, man.
It's vengeance.
I have not hated on Marvel, right? Like I don't. I think that to this point, up until Phase 4, I think Marvel, if I sat there and had let's say a qualification for it, it was just little nitpick items, and Jason can attest to that, right? Despite the fact that I love DC more, and I'll sit there and say that right now, Jason will tell you I will go for hours on end on what's wrong with DC, because it frustrates me that they have good material and they don't know what to do anything with it, right? They leave it strictly for the comic books. And that's my problem, right? But it doesn't mean that I'm not a fan of it. But this right here, Eternals, look, same thing. I think you had a great premise. And I think you could have gone a lot of different places. But number one, I think that should have been a Disney Plus series as well, because you had too much information packed in that movie. And then two, again, third act problems. Like every Marvel movie since Phase 1, most superhero movies in general have a third act problem. I don't care if it's Marvel or if it's DC. They have a third act problem. They think that the third act has to be expanded into something that is so big and so masterful, and it's got to be eye popping and everything else. And they forget the fact that sometimes a smaller third act in its visual, its heart of the movie, it can be okay, and so to that, I will tell you right now, did we get both of that with Doctor Strange 2? I think we did. I think we got a big finish, but also it was one that was predicated on a much smaller emotional beat, and I do like the fact that this one did have that.
Okay, so hold on. You completely bypassed his whole point, which is, or the point of this question is that it's like we have and I think the problem here is we have people over here who are complaining about. I think the problem is we can't just say, okay, Ray, have you spent the last 10 years complaining that the movies were dumbed down for the normies? Because I don't think we have been. I think we've understood that that this is made for a broader audience, and that's fine. And changes made are fine. I think your whole point is it's not even that this film is, because again, I agree with Genesis. I think you can pick up on context clues. My wife was like, okay, I had to say like two things. She's like, okay, I get it. It's your whole point is this going to be a weakness moving forward where we're going to have to sit down and like, what if I don't want to watch She-Hulk? Like, I just don't care. Like, can I just bypass a show every once in a while and still keep up with the universe? I think it's sort of your question is, are they going to be like, nope, you got to watch absolutely everything to get it? But to Genesis' points, like we've already been doing that. I think the problem is now we're getting to that 90s overload. Let's talk about comics for a second, where in the 90s you had to buy like you couldn't just buy Spider-Man or like the Web of Spider-Man, or it's like you had to, or the X-Men were the worst of it. You couldn't just buy Uncanny X-Men and read the story. You had to buy Uncanny X-Men, X-Men, X Factor, Generation X. You had to buy, and then you had to buy the special in order to figure out what was happening. You had to buy all of it, and it's like there's a point where you get too big, too complicated, and you're like, you know what? Screw it, I'm out. Right? It's like this is supposed to be fun. I don't want to have to friggin' catalog and make like one of those murder boards where you have it's like to figure out what's happening.
It's sounding more like you all have a problem with someone telling you what you have to do. That's what it sounds like, because in the grand scheme of things here, I get your point with the comic books, but if that's 5 to 8 issues a month that you have to buy, we're not talking about that level, that volume of content here. We're talking about 3 movies a year and 16 episodes or something. We're talking about 10 hours, 12 hours of content. Like we're not talking about like this thing that you have to come, like we're not talking about a video game, like video games where you have to go loot and you have to go put hours and grind. You have to play 4 hours a day just to keep up, like an NBA 2K, for example. We're not talking about putting 4 and 5 hours a day into it. We're talking about putting
Go
Mavs. Go Mavs.
Go Mavs. And go Stars.
Yeah, they won too. Game 7s. But we're talking about 4 or 5 hours, like a quarter over a 3-month span. So I just don't feel like it's that cumbersome of a task to just be like, this is just too much, and I can't do this. And it's like, I don't want to do this. It's like, okay.
But again, though, I don't think it has anything to do with me saying, well, I don't want someone to tell me, well, I got to do this, this, and this. I don't care. If I don't want to do it, I'm not going to do it. Right. But
you are going to do it.
No, actually,
regardless of what they do, you are going to do it.
I might, but I might not.
That hat tells everything.
Yeah, well,
Jason,
true.
I'm not sure, because Jason it's kind of just neutral over there. But you, with the Vengeance hat, you're going to do it.
Yeah. But they haven't. And again, I go back to Eternals because that's something that came out. I had no desire to watch that. I watched that because it was, we should go ahead and we got to talk about it. So that was a watch of necessity, not a watch of something I'm wanting to do.
But to your point that you've been trying to bring up today, Eternals is a perfect example of a movie that you don't have to watch.
Yeah,
for anything else to make sense. So it's kind of getting back to my point. Which one is it?
I didn't have a problem with it not connecting. I had a problem with everything. I just had good actors.
I'm saying
story.
I'm saying today you have a general problem with things connecting. That movie did not connect.
Correct.
So,
but it still needs to be a good movie.
Right. But that's getting into the weeds. I'm talking about the general notion of, I don't want all these movies to have to connect.
I
like
don't,
that one.
we didn't have it with the first parts. I'm sorry. I think we had movies where it would have made a lot of sense. I think, again, I go back to Civil War, Endgame, and Infinity War, right? I think all of those movies were a payoff for those who did watch everything. But the movies that came in between weren't a necessity to watch what came before. That's what I'm saying. And again, yeah, you're right. Eternals did do a good job of being separate from everything. They absolutely did. But the problem wasn't
That was
with
also your
them
problem, was
connecting.
that it was so different from it was so separated from everything.
I don't
I
even
think
think that's the case. So we're not talking
Mhm.
about it being so different. We're talking about the fact that the story it didn't connect for me. And I'm not talking about because it didn't connect with the other Marvel characters. I'm saying as a story that could have been done better. Same thing with Moon Knight as we're talking about. It could
Well,
have
I
been
mean,
done better.
but with that logic, I mean, I think pretty much every single movie ever made could have been done better. That still has
True.
to be
Yeah.
there still has to
True.
be like a barometer or standard here.
Oh
of
no,
what
man!
needs-
All Zack Snyder films are perfect. Just I can't even finish that sentence. Look, I don't disagree. I don't disagree. But that we're taking away from Doctor Strange time.
Okay.
Um,
You mean Scarlet Witch in the Multiverse of Madness?
yes, Scarlet Witch in the Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah.
I feel like this movie would have been better if it was called that.
Whether it was
Because the first
her
thing y'all
movie.
said was, let's talk about Doctor Strange 2. This doesn't even feel like a Doctor Strange 2. It barely feels like a Doctor Strange movie. So it would have been better and then it would have made more sense that you needed to go watch WandaVision. There would have been this very clear connection. Not that the connection wasn't clear, but it would have been a direct link between the show and the movie if it was called Scarlet Witch in the Multiverse of Madness.
So what you're saying is you want to have Moon Knight in a show called Moon Knight? Is that what you're saying?
Thank you, Ben Dunn, for that reference. Okay, so let's actually just start. So let's go back and start where we usually start. Did you like the movie, Raymond? Did you enjoy this film?
No, I enjoyed the film. I did enjoy the film because it was just big stupid fun. I did. But
Genesis, how about you? Yes, you don't have to. You can say no. That's fine.
No, my response is really that I don't know, because I viewed this movie in a way in which I usually do not view movies, and for that reason, I did not like it.
I almost want to ask, in what way did you view this?
Well, usually when I go into movies to review them, because I'm more of a black and white, does it check these boxes type of person.
That's true,
right?
Oh, gotcha.
But in this situation, there was a level of expectation because you're opening up the multiverse, and then once we got into the multiverse, they only really went into detail about
3.
No, I'm saying detail. Like real detail, like you kind of knew what was going on and what was kind of different about this reality versus others. They only kind of went into detail about one, right? And you really only saw 2 or 3, right? Different ones.
I'd say they went into at least 2. I mean, not into what happened on the desolate, strange version of that universe.
I mean, they just walked to the house and started fighting, so that's not really explaining.
They had a little bit of talk.
I mean, but it's not really explaining like everything that's going on in that universe.
Yep.
But I don't think you have to explain what went on in that universe. Just hey, the reality's in collapse. Like they kind of already said what kind of these things sort of happened. So
no, I'm not saying explain why it's the way it is, but what are the subtle differences between this universe and the other? Like that was intriguing to me. Like you walk on red. There was one where everything was made of paint, right?
Yeah.
Like those kind of differences were intriguing to me versus like, oh, this one's all tore up. Let's just have an epic battle and move on to the next scene. Like,
again, a good Disney Plus show. Every episode you're going and you're spending time in that universe.
So you want to bring back Sliders is what I'm hearing?
Yeah, actually.
Yeah. Because that's
do you even know what Sliders is?
I remember the commercials. I didn't watch the show.
It was all right. It wasn't bad.
Yeah,
but same premise. Same premise here. So
just jumping through the multiverse. I liked the movie because I mean it was different. It was honestly this was not your traditional Marvel film. In fact, this wasn't even a superhero film. It was a horror film. This was an old school horror film. When we were leaving the film,
it was a horror film that wasn't scary.
It was legit. It was legit scary in a few places. I mean, it wasn't. But again, it wasn't. I don't think it was trying to be a full-on horror movie. But someone mentioned on the way out that this wasn't a PG-13 movie. It was like a lowercase R, and I kind of like the phrase was like, it's not really an R. It's not an R film. It's a little bit, but it's like it's like there's some elements that are disturbing enough where it's like, yeah, I can see a lowercase R.
The destruction of the Illuminati. That was pretty gross. Just how they started that, it was gross.
Yeah, it was disturbing more than gross. I think that's the thing is like outside of killing the Wish version of Shuma Gorath, it really wasn't gory. It was just disturbing in a lot of cases. But it goes back to Sam Raimi being a horror guy. Like that's where which I think was appropriate for the character, for what they were trying to, for the story they were telling.
You know, I want to do this. I want to say it this way. So Marcus and Jason, pick out the one thing that you guys liked and pick out the one thing that you just wish they had done differently. Genesis, what's the one thing you liked about it?
The one thing I liked about it, just America Chavez's character. That's the thing that I liked about it, and she, and at the end of the day, she was the only new character. You open up the multiverse and you only really introduce one new character to the main timeline. WTF? So
let me start there really quick. Okay, so we know incursions are bad, right? And incursions are the boundary jumping events that take you to the next multiverse. Yes.
We're not entirely. All we know is you can create an incursion, yes, through boundary jumping, yeah.
But boundary jumping based off the universe of the Illuminati, which is 868, 838,
yeah, something like that. Yeah, whatever.
They deem that illegal. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the one hero that can illegally jump these boundaries happens to be Latina. Thank you, Disney, for all of that talk about trying to bring in diversity and be different. And you make
it can't be that, Vengeance. It can't be that.
You make the one.
You just said they should make these shows where everyone's the same, and you're not pointing out any differences
I'm just saying, but
between the people.
They didn't point it out.
They didn't point it out.
I'm just saying
they did exactly what you wanted them to do.
The illegal boundary jumping
still have a problem with
to be Latina.
But y'all say I'm picky about stuff. Y'all say I'm picky about stuff.
Oh man, I'm just saying. Now to what you said though, Marcus, she was my favorite character of the movie.
Yeah.
She was. She had a sweetness about her. She had a wholeness about her, and definitely
I like the powers.
Definitely the protege in training.
Yeah.
Throughout the entire thing. So, you know, her understanding of sacrifice and her understanding of rising above was definitely there. All right, now the one thing that you didn't like, Genesis.
I think I kind of touched on it earlier. It's the fact that you introduce Professor X, right? You introduce Mr. Fantastic, different versions of Captain Marvel, right? Some inhuman people, right? But in our particular timeline, we still don't get any of them. Yeah. So it's just this tease, this slow burn. Everybody likes that, you know, Jim from The Office is Mr. Fantastic, but that's no guarantee that he'll be that in this universe on any movies going forward.
On the 616. Yep.
There's no guarantee that any of these people will play these roles going forward. So it's just like kind of for nothing in a way. Unless they do some Dragon Ball Super stuff where, you know, they actually open a portal and bring those people in to help fight something that's going on here. But they're all dead now. So spoiler alert. So it doesn't even matter.
In remarkably graphic ways or disturbing ways.
I will tell you that the dismantling of the Illuminati, my favorite part of this thing, because it really showcased the power that Wanda had. And for everyone who's barking on the fact that Mr. Fantastic, smartest man alive in the world, and gives away Black Bolt's one weakness, No, it's Mr. Fantastic trying to reason with someone who he knows is in pain. And the line back from Wanda going, "Tell me, is their mother still alive?"
Yeah.
Well, then there will be someone there for them. I mean, it was just a genius line. Jason, what's your favorite part of
Well, you asked me first what was the one I didn't like. Honestly, the one
Yeah.
scene or what when the two strangers are fighting and they pull the notes off of the sheet music was a little campy for me. I kind of appreciate what they're doing, but like that was like you want to talk about nitpicking. I'm like this just feels stupid, but
It was stupid.
it didn't take me out of the movie. The thing I liked is that it was tightly paced. This was a legitimately different film than most of these other Marvel movies. You can set your watch by the story beats. This was different. This did feel, this was the most Sam Raimi movie that ever Sam Raimi. But I think the bigger point here is it had a better third act. It didn't fall into the traditional, superhero, we're going to have a sky beam third act thing. It was, like you said, even though the stakes were big, it felt really small. It was about whether or not Wanda was going to murder this child for her powers. It's like, and go off on what is really a self-destructive thing, which is why I kind of liked how, it felt small. And there was this question of, is Strange going to, is he going to repeat all these mistakes? We've been told the entire time that his big mistake, and this is his big character flaw, even in the original film, is he has to be the one holding the knife. At the end, he's like, no, I'm going to trust somebody else to do this job. Right. I'm going to trust her to fix this. And so I like the fact that it was small. It was a little, the third act got very character driven, right? It was Wanda coming to the realization of what she had done wrong, where she had gone wrong. It was America realizing that she did have this power. She could control it. And Strange being able to give up this, his I need to control everything, because that was his, everyone's flaw was front and center, and it resolved them. It allowed each character to resolve their mistakes and move forward. And I liked that. It, like you said, it misses that third act problem that they've had on so many movies.
Chavez feels like a much better version of a Rey from Star Wars. Like, you had 3 movies.
I can see why you
try to take that arc.
But she had a lightsaber though. Come on, chill out, bro. She had a lightsaber. Come on.
Well, but America could punch people into stars.
Which, by the way,
I have to admit, the star thing was, I know it's from the comics, but even I'm who love things from the comics, it was like I could have seen them make it a little more organic. So it's like, oh, it's like a star pattern, but not like boom, hey, look, it's a star. I thought that was a little cheesy, but didn't take me out of it. One little comic thing, the visuals, it was fine. The thing I loved, and it's never once explained, is the cow, the green cow.
The Minotaur.
They never explain him. What?
The Minotaur.
Yeah, the Minotaur. Yeah. He's never explained.
Yeah.
We know why he's there. He's an homage to what I just forgot I can't remember anything.
Anyway, but I get what you're saying. It's just the fact that now Marvel has gotten to the point to where Genesis, I'm going to flip-flop on this. It is so big that you don't even look at that and go, why is that there? It's not, it's a throwaway character. It's legitimately, it's a throwaway character, and it's okay. Like, we didn't question it. It was like, there's a Minotaur in that thing. It wasn't that. It was like, oh, look, cool, a Minotaur, Yeah.
Got the second hot take for the day here.
Okay.
No.
Is it about the cow? Please let it be about the cow.
No. Like Twister, the cow from Twister.
Yeah.
Am I dating myself? Cow. There's another guy. It's just the same cow. Elizabeth Olsen's her acting in this and WandaVision. I see what everyone's saying online. It's being grossly, egregiously overrated. Her acting skills did not pull me into what she was feeling. The story and my previous knowledge of WandaVision, of what was going on, brought me into the story. But her acting itself, she, to me, did not do a good job of acting as a all-powerful being, which she is. She didn't do a good job of acting as like an evil person. The only thing that was okay, which I'm not even sure she was trying to do, is more like this possessed psychotic person. Like that.
Yeah.
That's, and I don't even think that's what was supposed to be happening there. That I don't think that's what I was supposed to be getting from her, but that is what I got from her, and that was the only thing that was done decently. Everything else was just like a miss for me. Like I didn't feel like you were evil when you were about to kill 100 people. Like I didn't really feel that. I felt it in game when she was about to kill Thanos. Like I felt it there, but all these different emotions that she's feeling in WandaVision and in this movie, she didn't make me believe that she was actually feeling that.
That's fair. Wundagore. So that's I had to look it up. The Mount One, the cow is there as an homage to Wundagore. I'm done. Sorry, I just couldn't remember the name.
So would you say then, because when we talked last, that y'all, you and Sean both kind of chastised me on the fact that I was looking more forward to Thor 4 than I was Doctor Strange 2. So would you say it let you down then?
Yeah, that's what I started. That's what I kind of started off saying. Like I went into this movie with a certain expectation, and it was just like, no. But it was the same thing with. I know we haven't talked about this. It was the same thing with the Spider-Man movie.
Yeah,
it was just like I had a certain expectation. Again, opening up the multiverse, and then and it's just like, okay, like nothing outside of what I already knew was going to happen happened. It's just like, okay.
It's one of the reasons.
Go ahead.
I was going to say it's one of the reasons why I'm wanting to watch. I think it's Everything Everywhere at Once. Is that the name of that movie?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Actually, that's on my list.
Yeah, that's definitely on my list to watch, because everything I'm hearing and seeing says that it's, even though it has nothing to do with anything super heroic or anything else like that, it is a true multiverse movie where they feel that it handles it better. So I am curious to see about that, because I think that's something that would go into what you're talking about. It spends a little bit more time with everyone within that universe to see why they're different, to see what happened here, and it's much more of a focus on that, as opposed to just being like, okay, here we are, and being done with it. So I don't know. I'm part of me's glad that they opened up the multiverse. Part of me is not glad that they opened up the multiverse. I don't know. I think it's all at this point with all movies, as it should have been. It's going to rely on the quality of the movie, and if it can pull me in, great. If it's not, then it's not going to. But I feel like Marvel's run of hits is going to start slowing down. I think we're going to have a lot more hits, and this is.
You've been saying that for 5 years, man. Come on.
At Phase 4's proven me right so far.
I was about to say, it's like the last couple outside of Spider-Man, I think to raise point, like the last few have not been, have not been his favorites.
But I will say this though.
Well, that'll mean it's not a hit because it's not his favorite.
Yeah, that doesn't mean that at all.
But I didn't like Shang-Chi, but everyone seems to love it. But I didn't like that.
I didn't either though. I agreed with you. Again, I think that was a huge third act problem that ruined the movie for me.
Right, but if you go look at sales and reviews online, everyone loved it. So,
I think there's two. We're coming to the end of the hour, but just two quick points. I don't think that necessarily the sales means the quality of the film, and unfortunately, I don't know that online that we can necessarily trust all the online things. But I think the conversation here is not necessarily is more about the quality versus things can be popular and can suck at the same time. I believe Nickelback is everyone's favorite example of that.
I don't even think you have to go there. Keep it within movies. Fast and the Furious, Transformers.
Right, but they are all. You said it hits. Those are all hits. They all generate humongous amounts of money.
But that are just not good movies.
I can agree with that, but it's still a hit movie.
Yeah, for sure.
So
I think hits mean good movies, unfortunately. But to Genesis' point, I get. I think there's a discrepancy in how those words are used there. That's the problem. But we've come to the end of the hour.
Well,
do we want to keep moving, or is there one more thing you want to mention?
I do want to talk about one quick thing. And all that's sit there and say is, I like Doctor Strange 2. I think Jason liked Doctor Strange 2. I think Genesis felt let down. And I think part of me liking this is the fact that I was not expecting much at all. Whereas in Genesis, I think you were expecting a lot more from what they had been prepping and leading up into. And for me, I was like, okay, it's more than what I thought I was going to get. So I'm okay with that. You know,
I think
Sorry,
I think them opening up the multiverse could have been the jump the shark moment, but they didn't jump the shark.
Yeah. Right.
It's like, hey, there's a shark over there that we could jump with a leather jacket on, but we're not going to. We're just going to stay over here. Like that's basically what happened.
Well, and I do think we've seen how, like, the real ending scene with Clea, I think, does tell us how they're going. Because to your point, you're like, well, we can't even get these characters. I think they're still trying to figure out how, but I think they're going to use the incursion to sort of reset the universe a little bit and give us and integrate these characters, because they have. To sort of
really quick,
that early point,
that's
paint themselves into a corner.
Stephanie, that's Stephanie's telling Genesis chop chop. That's what that's about.
Yeah.
Just
hey, Stephanie.
Check the chats. I don't know. I ended up liking it. I just don't know. Again, for me, it's going to be a lot more hit and miss, and I think that's already proven out so far. Definitely hoping that Stephanie, you're making me laugh. Definitely hoping though that the Thor will be much better. But last thing before we cut out, I will George Perez, artist extraordinaire, legendary artist for both DC and Marvel, was diagnosed late last year with pancreatic cancer. He chose not to undergo any type of surgery or anything else like that, but he finally passed peacefully, surrounded by those that were loved ones. And man, I'm gonna miss him. Every time that we ran into him at a convention, nicest guy. Always made time. Always spent. You thought you maybe had 3 minutes to talk to this guy. You realize 15, 20 minutes later, he's sitting there just sharing knowledge and niceness, man. I just can't get over how cool he was. But definitely going to be missed, but just wanted to sit there and give that little quick shout out. So, Stephanie, yeah, you're disrupting people wherever you go, but that's all right. We love you anyway.
But Neil Adams passed as well.
And Neil Adams passed. Oh my God, that's right. He passed the week before.
Neil Adams passed, and Fred Ward just passed the other day from Tremors fame.
Yep. Well, more fame than that, but I think for us, that's the big one.
Yeah, that's why we love him. Yeah, he's been he was in everything. But yeah, I mean, Neil Adams and George Perez, from an artistic standpoint, those are catastrophic losses. I cannot tell you how impactful both of them have been to the industry.
Oh, for sure. Sure. Genesis, you want to plug anything on your side, man?
Yeah, let's everyone listening. I don't know how many. I can't see a count. I'm pretty sure it's in the hundreds, right?
I'm pretty sure
there's at least ones of people listening. Absolutely.
Singles people, man.
A version TV. I said this before. I said this last time. We're slacking on current content, but there's plenty of archive content that you can go check out. Video game reviews, anime reviews, comic book movie reviews. So anything that you missed or thinking about playing or picking up, we may have already reviewed that. So go check it out on a version TV. Have a show called ANX Gamecast and ANX Weekly Update, so you can get all of the reviews there. And sometimes you can see Ray.
Occasionally. Just
occasionally.
Have me on. Yeah. Jason, you want to plug anything since you're like on 18 million other podcasts?
No, I think all the
okay, good. Thanks,
5
Jason.
people watching. Yeah, they know. They know.
Oh, Stephanie upped it to dozens of us. Thank you, Stephanie.
Well, on
all
that
right.
note,
Well, sign us out and let's try this again. I don't know if this is going to work, but Jason, go ahead, man.
Again, thank you to Genesis for coming in to fill Sean's role for us. It's appreciated every time you come on. And for those of you who are watching, however many of you there are, we love every single one of you, except for maybe Daniel. And go buy your comics and geeky accoutrement from Titan Comics, titancomics.com. He is our favorite comic monger. Can you push the button,
There we
right?
go. We're going to try. Let's see if this works this time. 1, 2, and 3. By the way, everyone, be nice. Have a great 2 weeks.